All right, guys. So in today's podcast, I had the chance to talk to someone who I actually know personally. His name is Adnan, and one thing that I really was inspired with Adnan was, he's working on becoming a pilot, but not just a pilot, a great pilot. He has the podcast called the Purposeful Project. Yes, and he talks a lot about mindset. He talks a lot about confidence. He emphasizes a lot about confidence. So I think there's going to be a lot of value for those of you who are interested in that kind of thing. So definitely tune in and we will talk to you in the next clip. Peace.
Yeah, so essentially, man, first of all, thank you for having me on here. Ibrahim here
I
as
appreciate it, bro. I appreciate you
one of the
coming.
most consistent, no, man, my pleasure, man. One of the most consistent YouTubers or anybody just to do anything and like always putting out content of real life and showing the behind the scenes, how he does it and all that kind of stuff is extremely admirable. Seriously, tell you that off camera and
I
on
appreciate
camera.
it,
So
bro. I
shout out
appreciate
to
it.
you for that, man. But mashallah, first of all, let me get that in. But what do you call? Yeah, essentially. So how it works is like your first license to becoming a pilot. That's what he's referring to. Is pretty much you get your private license. So once you get your private license, then it moves on to commercial, and the commercial then you add on ratings. So then it becomes like multi-engine rating, which means like you fly more than two engine aircrafts. Then it becomes IFR rating, which then means like going into clouds and different stuff like that, where you don't need visual reference to fly the aircraft anymore. So essentially, that's what that means.
That's interesting. And
Yeah.
so where are you at in terms of the pilot life?
If I think right now,
Because
yeah,
honestly, like I wanted to be a pilot and there's a time
yeah.
when I wanted to be a pilot, I think 2015, and all I
Uh,
remember was private and commercial. That's literally
yeah.
all I remember.
That's how it always starts out, man. That's all you know, and then they start hitting you with like these different names and
Yeah.
licenses, ratings, and all this crazy stuff. But yeah, no, I did a program, right? So I did a program out in Ontario. It was about a 3 year program, but COVID pushed it back to about three and a half. So right now, alhamdulillah, I actually just wrapped up everything for it. Just got back, graduated, got back to Vancouver. So I'm done with that. So essentially, the way I explain it, and the perfect way to explain it to somebody that doesn't really know too much about the aviation thing and the license and stuff like that is think of getting your commercial and then your ratings and stuff like that as like getting your class one driver's license, right? So once you get your class one's driving license, now any company could hire you to fly any aircraft, but all they have to do is train you on that truck or whatever it is, you know? So essentially that's what I have, my class one, and any company could hire me. But the twist to that is no company generally hires you right off, like the big ones, let's say. They want you to build your hours up. And then once you get your hours up and you build a rapport, then you could send in your resume and get those higher up or bigger aircrafts or whatever you're trying to go for.
That's very interesting that you mentioned that. It's funny because I because we're gonna talk about that too. Your podcast that you
Yeah.
have, I believe, with Humam, right?
Yeah.
I've actually heard a bit like a few of the episodes. I think like three or four.
Uh-huh.
And one of the episodes I think you started in 2017, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you kind of discussed about like how you got into it and how, I think you were saying like it's 120K a year, but then you were able to kind of get into, I think, was it Manitoba or was it like in the outskirts of like Canada?
Yeah. Ottawa. I mean, sorry, Ontario.
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 Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me like what got you to get into this field of, aviation?
So it's actually a really good question. I was actually one of the fortunate people, like alhamdulillah, I'm extremely grateful because I know how hard it is to actually decide a field you want to go in and then pursue it. Like that itself is crazy. Like coming out of high school and then being overwhelmed with, okay, what do I need to take? You're getting your family pressure and all that kind of stuff, and then deciding where you want to go and all that kind of stuff, right? So alhamdulillah, like I actually got extremely lucky and fortunate enough to have an aunt. My dad's sister was the first female pilot in Africa. So growing up, I used to go visit her in Dallas and that kind of stuff. And
Wow.
she was a fighter pilot. So excuse my language, but she was badass. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So like I used to see her, but she was just so cool to me. I was like seen in grade five, grade four, and I got so passionate about it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm doing this. And then I grew up in Richmond as well, in Vancouver, and the airport is like literally like 5 minutes away from my house. So I always see aircraft just flying right on top of my house. So then, like growing up and seeing that, I always got like so intrigued by the aircrafts and stuff like that. So I knew I wanted to be a pilot. But the problem that you said that I ran into was, okay, it costs about 100, over 100 grand to do your, let's say, a diploma program or a degree program and get your license on top of that. So then I got, alhamdulillah, I had a mentor, which his name is Randon, and he essentially steered me in the right direction of telling me, okay, there's other options, figure it out, see if there's any other schools and that kind of stuff. And after like searching online, I found out there's two schools in Canada which actually they pretty much essentially let you're able to do the program and you don't have to pay for the flight training itself. So you only pay for your diploma, which is about 3,000 a semester, 7 semesters total. So you do the math, 3 times 7, that's 21, 21, right? Right? Right?
21.
All right, there you go.
I got you.
But so it's around like 21 there. But but essentially the flying is all paid for, which is about 60 grand. But the
Wow.
twist, because there's always a twist, is that if the program starts off with like about 100 to 110 kids, and you graduate with like generally in a normal year about 20 to 30 kids in a normal year.
Mm.
So it's extremely intense. But if you're able to stay in the program and push through, then you get pretty much cleared 60 grand, which was a no-brainer for me. It was the lifestyle or choosing my career. The lifestyle meaning leaving Vancouver and going to a small town of 50,000.
How did that feel? Like kind of getting out of your comfort zone. You know, you're in a
Man.
city, like in a town, not even a city. You're in a town. All that. Like, how does it feel to like get out of your comfort zone? Because I know how hard it must have been on you, especially for like 2 3 years, right?
You know what's funny, dude? I had no idea what I was even doing. Like, to give you prefix or context to how I was thinking at the time was, I my brother actually came to me in the summer and was just like, it was like 2 years after I graduated. I was trying to figure it out still. I didn't know where I wanted to go or how I was going to get the pilot training done. But essentially, my brother came up to me one day and was just like, "Yo, Anan, like, what do you want to do? Like, what's your plan? Like, you're living every day to day. You're living like every day to the next, and you don't really have a plan of what you want to do or whatever it is. Like, get like kind of like get up off your ass kind of thing." And then at the time I was working and stuff like that, but I was just coasting. And then essentially I kind of took a step back, and I wasn't really on my religion that much at that time as well. So I kind of like it kind of shook me up a little bit, and
Yeah.
then it got me thinking about, okay, where does my priorities actually lie? So then I went back, I made dua, which is prayer, made some repentance, and just kind of like asked to like help me figure out, okay, where do I want to go and stuff like that, and just kind of like getting my life together. And actually the next day after I did that, I got accepted to this school because I was on a wait list. And then I had to fly out and leave the province in the
Wow.
next week or two. So I had to
Crazy.
like get up, like me just chilling,
You
bro.
didn't have
Like
any time to
imagine
even
that.
like think it through. You just had to like straight up go.
Yo, I had no idea what I was getting into, man. I was just chilling, living life. All of a sudden, they call me, "Hey, you're accepted. You got to get here in the next week or two." And I'm like, "Damn, I'm about to leave to a small little ass town." And then, anyways, so I decided, I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna do it." So I kind of like threw myself in it.
Yeah, of course.
And to answer your question, man, like leaving and going to a small town and the difference there,
Hmm.
it was crazy, man. It was so different. It was so different from the people, the environment, the people that actually live there, the residents, to the school, and just everything. Period. And then the weather, man. The weather was huge. It was like now we're talking about -20, -30 on a normal winter day.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know
because
what I
for
mean?
those of you guys who don't know, we live in Vancouver, so it's kind of like the warmer part of Canada. So I mean, here it's like I would say 7 8 degrees in during the winter,
Yeah.
and then over there it's like what -30. You just said
Yeah. Yeah.
like
So around like -30, man. So that in itself was, oof, it was just different, man. It was just different. But alhamdulillah, like it was at the time I didn't know, and it was really tough, but it was one of the best things I could have ever done for myself, and I
Mhm.
wouldn't trade it for the world. Yeah, as tough as it is, and I wish I could give you more. Like it was extremely tough,
Of
extremely
course, of
extremely
course,
tough.
of course.
But it was one of the best decisions I ever made, simply for the fact that I was investing in the greatest asset of all and not even knowing it, which is myself and my sanity in my head and getting to understand myself. I had no idea I was doing that, but as I was going through the motions of being there, about halfway through, I realized, damn, like I actually got extremely lucky. I got time to sit back and actually reflect and only having to deal with my thoughts, where I'm at, and kind of like figuring myself on who I am. So that in itself
I
has been.
find that to be very interesting because like it's like you say, you didn't really, it's not something you expected, right? And I heard this on your podcast as well. How you made toba, repentance, for those who don't know what that means. And obviously that your path kind of changed a little bit. And I think that it's dope that you were able to like because the hardest thing too sometimes is that, like, getting out of your comfort zone. It's like sometimes it's like it's tough, like,
Mhm,
for anything. And I think that what you did was like I talked to you, like, I think it was a few weeks back, right? Like, even when I talked to you, you seem very focused, you seem determined. You're like, you know what, I learned from all the experiences there, and I'm ready to take on the next step, and I'm ready. I'm just gonna keep going. And that's something that I really appreciated about you. And even in terms of like the podcast that you created, that's also like, I didn't know much because because I don't think we've really had a chance to really like actually talk. I
mhm.
guess we're always like in the groups, like because
Yeah,
I don't live in Richmond, but whenever I go, it's like the groups are always there. So I don't think we've ever had like a one-on-one conversation until the phone call.
mhm.
But initially, the reason, like, what also inspired me was also the podcast that you started as well. And I was like, yo, I like his mindset, and I like the way that he thinks. Did you always have this kind of mindset for yourself, or was it something that you kind of developed as you just kind of went through your
Going
journey?
through it. So that's a very interesting question. As I'm thinking about it, man, it's honestly, I kind of like attest that to my parents.
Mm-hmm.
My parents have kind of always had that, and alhamdulillah, I've been lucky enough to where I have my dad and my mom in my life. So them being very moral driven and on like very focused on, okay, you have a goal, you have something set, you have to go for it and you have to do it. So that's what I attested to, is definitely that my parents just always instilled that in an early age of like going for whatever you set your mind to, and you just by any means necessary. And what motivates me the most is just when I just think about, man, all the effort our parents put into us, and coming from a different country and being and just going through everything they went through just to give us a better education, better life, something better than they knew, and that in itself it's just such a crazy driving force that I'm like, it just gets me going. Like I just no way I could lose. Like as long as I have and we have Allah on our side, there's nobody that could stop us. It's literally like, try me. Like it doesn't matter. Like you're not gonna stop whatever me and Allah has set forth for me, and us.
Yeah.
So
No, I
having that is
I love
very.
that. I love that, especially like because you did mention that you kind of came back to the dean like during
Mhm.
like that time. Was your life a lot more different before that, or was it like you just weren't maybe as into the dean? Sometimes you kind of find yourself in throughout the journey.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, it's a great question, man. So essentially, like what I find is that usually like when once you're given something, you don't appreciate it as much.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like for example, putting somebody in a position. Let's say now you have a kid and you say you're a billionaire and you have a kid and here, take everything. They're not going to appreciate anything. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's what kind of happened with the dean itself. We got blessed with it and we don't even understand how lucky we are to even have that in our lives, that it's like that becomes something that we just like kind of like push under the rug kind of thing. And as soon as like I was just going through, like I was saying, like the motions of life and everything, it's like I took a step back and I'm like, what do I believe in? Like what is it? Like, do I believe in Islam, or am I just in it just because I was born Muslim? Like what is it? So kind of like going back to my grassroots and looking into different things, different religions and stuff like that, and doing a bit of research. it just showed me. And then and then I decided, okay, Islam is it. It's a religion for me, and it is the only religion that I believe in. So it's like, okay, if that's the case, let's try striving to kind of like perfect or strive for perfection to becoming a better Muslim day by day. So that's what kind of drove me to that, just doing my
Mhm.
research, and then after that, just being like, okay, that's what I want. All right, let's go for it.
Yeah, no, I
You know?
like that too, because especially even for myself, like yeah, I went to a boarding school, this and that, but honestly, it didn't really hit me until I was probably like 20, where I started to,
Mm,
like focus a little more on my dean. Because growing up, it's like it was kind of like I was like people like, oh, he's a good boy, this and that, right? But I was just a regular kid, right? And sometimes putting for me personally, like people putting in that pressure was kind of like that's kind of why I kind of like stepped away from the Muslim community a little bit,
mm,
because I just felt this like pressure for myself. But when I turned when I was 20, kind of finding the dean and kind of understanding a little more about the dean and
mm,
how it actually you're not actually necessarily doing it for the people, you're doing it for yourself. And I think that everyone has their own like their own time where they kind of find themselves. And I think that like I don't know, it seems like especially for yourself, like once you've kind of found it, you sure, yeah, you still went through your obstacles, you still went through this and that, right? Throughout, I'm sure, like throughout the years, right? But I feel like it's having that dean as your backbone has kind of like really changed the way that you approach things. Like, do you find that the way that you approach things is a lot different now, like compared to like maybe before when your dean um wasn't as like as you weren't as aware about your dean, you know what I mean? Like, how
mm,
do you
mhm.
feel like your approach to life has changed?
100%, man. And honestly, I didn't put into words until recently. The way I look at it, it's pretty much the way I see it is I'm Muslim, we're Muslim, and we already won in life. Life has already, like, we already won. There's nothing else I could achieve higher than this. Like, I am Muslim. Allah has put the love of Islam in our hearts. So it's like, there's nothing else I could ask for, right? And anything else I receive is a cherry on top. So how could I ever lose? How can you ever look at a person like me or you and ever lose? If we already have the love and our deen in our heart, how can we ever lose? Yes, we might have our challenges and stuff like that, but we
Yeah.
can't forget the grand scheme of things. We are Muslim. You know what I mean? We are Muslim, and anything else we receive is a cherry on top. So that's how I kind of see it now. You know what I mean?
I guess what term is that tawakkul?
Yeah, tawakkal Allah, when you're having your faith in Allah. Yeah,
do,
yeah.
do you do you use that in your life as well?
I actually just wrote about that recently.
Mm,
What was it for? I like to write things down a lot, but yeah, it was. I was recently in like a very high pressure moment, and then I was stressing or whatever it was, and then I'm just like, okay, what? I'm like, let me take a step back. I'm like, what is it that? Because I'm obviously going to be in high pressure moments again and again.
of
I'm like,
course.
but what can I do to learn from this and actually like know the steps to take, right? Because I'm very adamant about having steps to take, whether it's problems, whether it's happiness, whatever it is. It's like having basic steps, generic steps to take at each at any obstacle or whatever it is you're facing, right? And so anyways, for high pressure moments, what I essentially figured out for myself is taking a step back, researching about tawakkul Allah, and then understanding the real meaning of it, which I can give context to, which is like pretty much exactly what you were saying, Ibra, is tying your camel, having faith in Allah, but also putting the work in. It's like the 50-50 rule, right? You
Mhm.
pray for it, you, whatever you call it, you, what's that word called? When you're just thinking about it like constantly. So
Like manifesting.
whatever, manifesting. There you go. So once you manifest it, then you also go do your work. You know what I mean for it. So that's exactly what tawakkul Allah means, and that's been crazy. I have a question for you though, man.
So,
For like you said, confidence and stuff like that, right? Recently, I found how if you ask me right now, like in my like 3.5 year journey, what's the two biggest things I've learned from it? It's essentially life equals balance. I don't care what it is, life always equals balance.
mm,
And the second thing is confidence. You know, Mike Tyson said it best: confidence applied properly could oversee the genius. You know, and really deeping those two things, it's extremely crazy. It's mind-boggling, man. It's like how important confidence is. So, like, my question is to you, like, when you said you didn't have confidence because of going to boarding school and just different things, you weren't that social, whatever it was, and you feel like you're behind on time, kind of thing. What got you to A, realize confidence is extremely important, B, to gain that confidence? What steps did you take?
So for me, honestly, it was I met someone in community college,
Mm,
and he kind of, because at that time I was still like I was still focusing on myself, right? Like I was still trying to figure things out and this and that, but my self esteem was still very low. So
mm,
that guy kind of instilled it. He's like, "Yo, like I see that you're very like seem like a smart guy." And he was my age too. And he's like, you know, you seem like you're trying to do a lot of things. Like, you know, you're trying things, right? And he's like, yo, man, you should be balling right now. You should be balling with confidence right now, right? He's like, wait, what? Why are you not like, you know, showing that? And then he introduced me to a few guys, like a few like YouTube guys. One is Jad T Jones. Um, and then I think there's a few other guys he showed me. So he really got me into like the self development. He's showing me like 17-minute videos, right? So I
mm,
started watching those videos, and then me and my brother, I showed my brother, and then me and my brother, we kind of went back and forth. I talk to my brother about this stuff all the time too. So so that kind of started the journey. Especially, but also having my brother there to kind of like bounce off, because he's in a different like path in his life, of course, but we
mm,
are always able to come back and then see like how we can improve and how we can just like keep growing. So in terms of the confidence side, like I would say it kind of came to me, I think the year after, where I started to become more like myself. Because what happened initially for me is that I had an
mm,
insecurity that, because especially in elementary school, that a lot of people didn't like me. So I felt always felt like I was an outcast to just society, right? So I just like, I don't know. It was interesting. I just I had to really figure out like who I was, and like figure out, okay, well, be you, and people will not necessarily gravitate towards you, but people will respect you for it. So I've kind of tried to figure out, like I spent those couple years trying to find myself, I guess, as cliche as it may sound. But throughout the time, like, I just kept trying things, I kept, you know I always emphasize, like being authentic, being yourself. So honestly, that was a time, but had it not been for that one time, that there was that one time, it was like for a few months. I knew him for like 2 years. We
mm,
just kept watching videos together, kept leveling up. And this, as the more things I tried, the more I was like succeeding in them. So when I did photography, I just kept doing it over and over and over again, and I started getting better at it. Like my photography honestly was not the greatest, but I was able to kind of like build it up to where as people would ask me for services. And then e-commerce too, I got a lot of job offers even coming back from traveling.
mm,
So that's kind of why I'm delving more into this fitness path. So now I've kind of come into this realization, and obviously to what good plays a role into it, where I can jump into anything, and I know I'll do well in it. I just have to be patient and just keep repetition. So I guess if that answers, I think that answers the question, right? Like in terms
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
confidence.
Like how you kind of reach confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Like confidence is something that, especially if you're trying to be confident in a certain thing, it's like you just have to keep repeating it. Like you have to keep trying, keep doing it. Like it's trial and error, especially if you're in a field, or this and that. Like even the guys that I talked to on Clubhouse today, they were like, yeah, like this field, it's like trial and error, because I'm going jumping into a complete new field. So I'm jumping in, I feel like a baby in that field. Like they're all talking this and that, 20 years of experience, and here I am, like with no experience, like no actual experience, like in the actual field,
Mm,
and just listening to those guys. So I don't so confidence for me has always been, um whatever it is, that first step. It's always, that's why, like even with you, man, like the fact that you were able to go to Ontario, to study, in a small town, that is the first step. Like obviously you took the steps before that too, but that's the one of the big steps. That's the big one of the
Mm,
biggest steps. Had you not taken that, had you maybe hesitated and said, ah, you know what, like, you know, maybe I shouldn't, or this and that, like, you probably wouldn't be in the same position, or maybe you would still be in this what if kind of mindset, like, oh, what if I
mm,
did this? Like, what would have happened? Um, yeah, and I think that's something that is super important when it comes to confidence. You just have to like jump into whatever you're interested in. Like even with YouTube, I make videos, but I just kind of jumped into it and I just kind of said, you know what? I'm gonna post videos that I enjoy. I'm gonna slowly figure this out and then see who vibes with it and then see what happens. And the videos have been like they've been going okay. Like they've been consistently getting like the same similar amount of views. So it clearly shows that whoever is subscribed is like whoever enjoys the content is clearly going back to it.
mm.
And the podcasts
Shout
have
out to
been
you, by the way.
sorry.
Whoever's that. Shout out to all you that are subscribed to Ibra because he's a freaking animal. He's a beast.
I
Mashallah.
appreciate it. No, I appreciate it, bro. Like that's even part of the reason why, like, when you started your podcast, I think you started it before I did. I think your podcast inspired me. Because
So,
I was looking at your podcast, and you can obviously like, we'll discuss your podcast after this. Because when I saw that, I was like, yo, like, I was happy to see that because, I was like, that we need more creators from this
yep.
city. Like I'm always trying to like figure out how to get people in this city like more like proactive in the online space. And I feel
Mm,
like your podcast, like, and I've heard like I think it was his first podcast. I've heard there was one where I think you're talking about like you got deep, right? And then I think you in whom I'm actually, could you kind of like go through your podcast, let us know like what you do and stuff like that?
yeah, for sure. So essentially, the our podcast is called Purposeful Project, and the whole purpose behind it was me and Humam, which is my co-host, essentially came together one day, reconnected, and we had an amazing conversation. And then we kind of asked ourselves, we're like, we don't have that many representation of people in our community, period, that are actually striving to do something, that are motivated to do something, and are out there. We kind of have no idea who's who and what's what and who's doing anything. You know what I mean? There's no connectivity anywhere. And we've seen like in different communities, like the Ismaili community or the Jewish community or whatever community you choose, it's kind of like always that connection, whether it's the youth or the older generation or whatever it is, and we didn't find really a connection between the youth. So we're just like, you know what? Since it's COVID and stuff like that, might as well make a podcast, kind of talking about our trials and tribulations we went through, things we learned, our goals, achievements we accomplished, things we plan to do, right? And then also having a platform where we could shine light on people that are doing amazing things in the community as well, so we could have more representation, and then creating kind of like a safe space. And the plans we have to do, or the plans we have with Purposeful Project, is inshallah growing on top of that. It's like having a center, having whatever it is we're trying to do that we have in the works, inshallah, and kind of like growing it higher and higher and higher from there. So essentially building a community. That's our goal with Purposeful Project, and we get extremely deep on our lives, things we learned, like I said, things we went through, and all that kind of stuff, and great lessons. And we just kind of bounce things off each other and have amazing guests like Yahya, and we plan on more guests and stuff
Yeah,
as well.
I noticed that. Like you guys get deep as well, and it's like you guys get deep.
No, it's weird for me, eh? It's actually really weird. Well, if you asked me in the summer, and would you be doing this or a podcast or whatever it is, I'd be like,
really in the
nope.
summer.
I'm extremely private, bro.
So you
I
guys
like
just
to.
like one day
I
just
like to
decided,
be
yo, like
private.
this is the deep conversation. Let's start a podcast.
Honestly, dude, I have family and friends and stuff like that that don't are the youth or the younger ones I seen, they don't have anything to look up to, man.
Hmm.
It's like the best way I could put it is like, if you only dream as far as you've seen, or you
Of
kind
course,
of like have like a vision of like, okay, that's kind of possible. I may extend it a little more, but I'm like, if people only see up to their neighborhood or up to their city or whatever it is, and they don't see anything further than that, then I'm like, then that's an issue in itself. You know what I mean? Like we need to broaden our horizon by showing ourselves, being exposed to different things, you know? Then our dreams get bigger. Then our confidence becomes bigger. Then we feel like we're actually able to accomplish things that are just astronomical, just crazy to us, you know? And I think that that's what kind of like inspired it. I'm just like, I'm like, there has to be representation. I have to show my little cousins or whatever it is, friends, just like, okay, we have to aspire to do more than we think we even can do, you know?
Yeah, and I
There has
agree
to
with you
be
there because something that I forgot who I was talking to someone. I think actually I think it was your brother actually. It's funny that
Shout out to them.
I talk to him like all the time, and it's like we were talking about having like one thing I was saying, and the reason why I do what I do is also to kind of like help, like it's kind of to show especially Muslims that we should also be out there. Like we should be thriving in whatever we're doing, right? And the cool thing is that we're all in different spaces. We're all here, we're all there, right? I may be here, you may be there, this person may be there. But if we put our efforts to, and we actually put it like, we put our efforts to whatever we're doing, it doesn't have to be
Mhm,
hustle all day, all night. It's consistency, right? It's
mhm.
just small little things, right? Like yesterday, I was in a clubhouse again. I was in a clubhouse
Yeah,
room,
yeah,
right? Where they're reading a book. I forgot it was like
yeah,
it was some like 12th century like Islamic book, and it was
yeah.
like it was emphasizing, Allah likes the deeds that are consistent, even if it's small. So even if it whatever you're doing, if like pick out if it's whether it's a deen or if it's dunya, whatever you do, like as long as you're consistent, even if it's small, like, and I think that's something that for me personally I've always wanted to emphasize to others as well. Like, yo, like you can do this. Like the other day, one of my friends, like I was talking to him, he was talking about like a certain thing that he wanted, right? And then I was like, bro, you can get it. You can get it. Like, there's no reason why you can't get it. Like, we, there's no reason. Like, just, and that's part of the reason why, like, I just sometimes, like, I've been to certain games, I've done this and that. I'm like, you can do this too. Like I'm a regular dude who, but the thing is that I just kind of like, if I'm interested in something, I just do it. And
Go
I
for
think
it.
that,
Straight up.
like, especially with what you mentioned, like if we all put our full efforts to what we can do, I think that like, we'll be thriving. And but the thing is that as you mentioned, it need to be a community. And I think that what you're doing, especially with Purposeful Project, and one thing I respect about Richmond is how tight everyone is. Like I've noticed that especially when there's someone coming up or this and that, you guys will hype up that person. Like you guys will like put them, like make sure they're on the map, and that's something I've really really respected about just the Richmond community. Um, for those of you, because of course a lot of you guys are not Canadian.
We're not testing
Richmond
you.
Richmond is like it's basically in Vancouver. There's different, obviously different sides of Vancouver, but the Richmond community is very very like tight. Um,
Five C.
why is it so tight? I'm actually curious. Did you guys all
It's
grow
five
up
C,
together?
baby. It's
Huh?
five C, bro.
Five
It's
C,
five C.
five C, five C. Like what makes it so tight though? Like, is it just you guys all grew up together?
I honestly, I think that plays a huge role in
Yeah.
like so in growing up, we lived in like townhouses and stuff like that. So all our townhouses, a lot of it was connected or not connected, but just all near each other. So every day we'd be just out, literally hanging out. Either it's actually funny, we're crazy kids. Either playing basketball, soccer, football, or throwing fart bombs in people's houses, or throwing water balloons at ice cream trucks. Like we'd just be doing something every day. All of us would just be doing just crazy stuff. You know what I mean? Like every single day. And also the masjid, going to the masjid at
Hmm.
nights. That was like, so we'd always be around each other. Like whether it's like the people in our direct neighborhood or going to the masjid, which is a mosque, which is a church considered. Um, so we'd link up there. So everybody would be there. And essentially that's where we'd all come together, play and all that kind of stuff. So that's what kind of got us real close, I would say. Definitely the
So
mosque.
what do you want to see from what because obviously you're building Purposeful Project, right? So
Yeah.
what do you want to see from your community? I guess for the youngins that are coming up, maybe you kind of have some experience. You can share some
Yeah, yeah,
gems,
yeah. For sure, for sure, for sure. Biggest thing is, man, is really, and I try preaching this to myself as much as I do to others, is just really investing the biggest asset, which is Ibra yourself. You know what I mean? Like real talk. Like it's like just really, but before you even chase any goals, like, cause I did it by accident. Like honestly, like me going to Sault Ste. Marie, like in Ontario, like that was by accident. Like, I didn't even know I was investing in myself, you know. But like me now, look outside looking in of everything, it's like, damn, like that is the most essential thing ever. Like before you even choose a career, before you even start chasing money or goals or whatever, like literally get to know yourself because there's so many distractions in the world, that it's like we get so distracted with every day-to-day things, family, friends, going out, whatever it is that you do. There's just so many distractions that we always forget to prioritize the most important thing, which is yourself, you know. And essentially putting in that work and being in that and being okay to feel uncomfortable, you know. Not everything, and it goes back to that thing I always say, life equals balance. Like not every, you don't always want to be uncomfortable, you don't always want to be comfortable. Like it's, there's always imbalance, you know what I mean? Like you just got to figure out what's your balance, you know. But you also got to push yourself to also find your balance. And one of the biggest things as well is, with the whole confidence aspect we're talking about, is being your number one fan and your
That's
number
key.
one hater. You
You
know,
actually said that in your
really big.
podcast too, actually.
Yeah,
Could you
you
elaborate
have
on that?
to. Yeah, it's like it kind of takes the power away from other people, right? So it takes the power away from other people, and you putting so much emphasis on how you're viewed by others. You know,
Hmm.
because if you're championing yourself up about any achievement or whatever it is that you're going for, and you're just giving yourself anything. Let's say, for example, like you, for me, if I finish a semester, I usually buy myself something, you know, whatever it is that I'm feeling. I'm like, hey, you're a king, take that. You know what I mean? Throw it on myself. And then what do you call it? And then also, if there's issues going on or there's things I'm not proud of, because I'll tell you right now, I'm nothing close to perfect. You
I
know
mean,
what I
yeah,
mean?
humans. We're flawed,
Frig,
bro.
man. Crazy flawed. But yeah, so but also when I'm not striving or to my highest potential,
Hmm.
also being like, okay, sit down and now what's going on? You know what I mean? Why is this going wrong? Why am I doing X, Y, and Z? What do I need to fix and how am I going to fix it? And setting out a plan and going by day. Essentially, doing that is one of the most important things ever for um, yeah, I would say that, man. It's literally being a number one fan and being a number one hater takes away power from anybody else. It's the biggest thing.
I think that if anybody can take anything from this podcast, I think that's probably the number one thing. Because like especially like for me, I've always been like, I don't want to say I'm an outcast in society, but I've always done things by myself.
Mm,
Like so like a lot of times I've always had to like um I I've always had to rely on myself and say, you know what, like you get it, if you do like if you don't do it, then it's never going to get done. And sometimes, like looking, because yes, there's going to be a lot of noise from the outside, but it's,
mm,
as you said, like if you can look at yourself and look within, right? What it does, it also is like it kind of humbles yourself as well. Like it kind of, as you said, like be your biggest fan. Tell yourself, like I don't know, like tell yourself, hey, like you did it, like, keep going, right? Like this and that, but also be your biggest hater, of course. Look at the flaws, right? Look at things you can fix. Look at things that that can be improved in the future, right? So I think that you really hit the ball there, and I heard it. I heard it in your podcast too, actually. That the exact same thing, which is something that like when I heard that, I was like, interesting. At first I was like, I didn't really understand, but as I started thinking more into it, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like,
mm,
it's like sometimes because at the end of the day, you're you came here alone and you're gonna leave alone. So who else to be your number one fan, but also your number one hater? Like who else than yourself?
mm,
And I feel like sometimes it's like, especially social media nowadays, like we try to look for validation. I'm guilty of it.
phew,
Hell yeah, I'm
crazy.
guilty of it. It's like we try to
Yeah,
seek this validation, right, from others, and sometimes we just need to look within ourselves and kind of, especially I guess for the youth. Like, I don't know, do you feel like because I don't know, I had a conversation with I think it was someone, and then is the youth the same that it was before? Like someone was saying that the youth are more misguided, but I don't know. I'm kind of out of the loop at the moment. Like it's kind of random a
No, that's
question, but
interesting.
it just kind of
No, no,
crossed my
no.
head because like I know you're saying community building stuff like that. Like do you still keep in touch with the youth and what's going on with them?
Yeah, man. I honestly, I think the youth are in a better place
Okay,
than we
good.
were, and the reason being is because I meet people like Zaki and Ayman, which is Ahmed, one of my friends' younger brothers, and stuff like that. And the way I see it is like, okay, so there's my brother's generation, there's my generation, and then there's like Zaki and stuff like that, which graduated like high school last year. And what I noticed is every generation of individuals, like it did the wokeness or whatever you want to call it, self development or just understanding yourself, it gets younger and younger and younger. Like Zaki and stuff like that, it's out of high school, and all these other kids that I know in the community, and they're already like they have their heads screwed on straight. Like they have the dean locked down and packed, right? They have their goals set, what they want to do, and then on top of that too, they're just so focused. They're just so focused, and I've never like I didn't get focused till like 2 years down the line after. So
Right.
I'm noticing that it's getting younger and younger and younger.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know if it's because of social media or whatever it is, or just seeing the older generation
That's how
doing
I
so.
felt. That's how I felt too. But it's funny because I was on. I heard a conversation, and in my head I was like, wait, am I out of the loop, or is it maybe that it might be someone else's circle, or maybe that's the lifestyle they live. So I was just genuinely curious because I was like, because actually the person mentioned that it's like in the Somali community, like I think in Toronto and so that. So I was like, wait, the Somali community? I was like,
Yo,
nah.
you know what's actually funny? It's we're actually really privileged, man, to grow up in Vancouver.
Hmm.
I'll say that, man. We don't have a lot of the struggles of like say inner city community and stuff like that. We had
Hmm.
the privilege of growing up in Vancouver, like I said, and a lot of the inner city struggles and stuff like that we don't experience, and to a certain degree we don't experience it at all. So we're actually really I'll even yeah we're really really lucky, and I could see how at some points in certain places where it's a lot harder, and there's not as much opportunity, and it's a lot easier to get misguided and go down the wrong path of whatever it is. But yeah, no, we're extremely lucky, man, to grow up in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So where do you plan to take this channel and stuff like that? Like just like how you asked me, like what's your plans with it, and what's kind of like your, if there's one mission statement you want to have, what is it?
Honestly, it's to preach authenticity. That's like my number one thing, right? Being yourself, where like being comfortable with who you are as a person. Because something I've learned throughout all the years, bro, it's like everybody's different. We're all different individuals, right? Like even doing these podcasts, I've noticed that everyone's a different character type. So it's like someone might be like this or someone might be like that, but it's understanding that we're all different and just embracing that, right?
Mm,
And that's kind of the reason, one of the reasons why even I did this channel. And another thing, obviously, is like I obviously like want people to like kind of defy the limits that you believe within yourself. I always thought like I sometimes I look at others and I'm like, yo, like this person's a human being just like me, right? Like someone out there, like one of the big guys, this and that, right? Um, I'll mention Clubhouse again, but a lot of the entrepreneurs, the big ones that you see on Clubhouse, for those of you who don't notice, like they're a lot older. Like they have 20, 30 years of experience like ahead of everyone else. So
mm,
the thing is that like for me, like it's a documentation. It's kind of like a thing where you kind of discuss what the journey that you're going through. And it's like you said, man, like as Muslims, we're gonna succeed regardless, right? They're gonna have tough times. We're gonna have times where we struggle. They're gonna have times where like the late nights where we're just like a little stressed out. But honestly,
mm,
bro, like I don't know. I found that by making it the content authentic and just things that are in my head, instead of being like, oh, what does everyone else want to see? More like,
mm,
oh, what do I want to talk about? That's kind of the approach that I've been taking on social media. Obviously with the other photography page that I made, honestly, that was cool. But it wasn't me. It was kind of like a false um version of me. Like
Narrative. Okay.
I wasn't being myself, right? So I deleted that account completely. I started a new Instagram. I started a new YouTube channel. I started obviously like whatever it may be, right? And then I said, you know what? From now on, I'm only gonna post things that I want to post. So even like in terms of podcast, the guests that I get are people that I actually want on the podcast. Like I'm not just gonna message this person, oh, cool, they have a lot of followers. No, I'm not gonna. It's for me. It's like it doesn't resonate with me because, first of all, I don't have a connection with that individual. Like what they post online, or
Mhm.
or even in person.
Yeah.
And second of all, like I don't see the intent behind it, right? So in terms of this channel or whatever it may be, it's to just kind of like, because obviously I have a different path. I'm getting into fitness, right? I don't want this channel to be like the my main source of income. Like that's not my goal. I just want this channel to be more of a channel where people can kind of understand that you can be a regular person, like you can be this person, and you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. Like you don't have to look, if you watch a game, like watch an NBA game, watch a soccer game, whatever it may be, you can be like, you can think two ways, of course. You can be like,
Yeah.
oh, well, it depends on obviously like your genetic capabilities and stuff like that, but you can ideally be there somehow. Maybe I can work on the floor. Maybe I can just do this. Maybe just imagine yourself being there. Maybe I can work on a social media team. You can be there. You just have to like, focus and actually like figure out how you can do it. Figure out a strategy. What are my strengths? What am I good at? This and that. And then at the same time too, you can be yourself, right? So as a Muslim, you can come in and you can be like, oh, hey, like the workplaces that I've been at, I've always tried to make sure that I pray at my workplaces. Like the first thing I'll ask each workplace is, where can I, is there a place where I can pray? Right? That's the first thing. Cause that's me. That's how you have to keep it 100 with that. Right?
Mhm.
Like I need a place to pray. So that's kind of what I'm kind of sharing in this channel,
Mhm.
just to kind of like be authentic, be yourself, you know but also with the podcast, it's also get other perspectives, kind of understand why someone does what they do, or even if they're on the come up, kind of understand the process of that they're currently going through, or wherever it may be, because 6 months, like we're talking now, 6 months down the line, you're going to be a different person. Like I can you're gonna be a different person. So it's funny because I talked to someone on like video chat, and then I didn't talk to him since I came back from traveling, which was it, I think it was June, right? So I talked to him, and then we kind of like, the person I was from when we first talked that day, we were even talk. We're like, dude, like we're both different individuals. And then the next time we talk, it's like we're gonna be completely different individuals, inshallah. Like, so it's like this thing where it's like, yeah, you see this, but you're gonna, I kind of like documenting the journey along the way, kind of understanding, because sometimes too, like sometimes what we miss is documentation what of
Mhm.
what you go through, right? So people who have been following the channel, this and that, like they're gonna be like, oh, the quality was like this. Oh, okay, it's improving a little bit. Okay, cool. You have this. It's improving slowly. Okay, cool. Oh, interesting. You have this person on. Okay, cool. Interesting. Oh, this person. I know this person. That's cool. Okay. So it's kind of also to like kind of keep each other accountable, and just say, hey, like, I'm doing this. Like I want to see you level up too. Let's level up together. That's why this city, like, something I really, really, really want to get in this city is like people just level up. Like that's like my biggest passion, just getting people to level up in whatever you're doing. Doesn't matter what your field is. Obviously, um, like with you being a pilot or whatever it may be, like everyone's doing something different. But be the best person you can, do the best you can do in
Mhm.
whatever that you are doing in your life. And that's kind of the reason why I built this channel. But yeah, I'm rambling, bro.
Nah, no problem.
I rambled. Um,
No,
Funny
whatever, man.
because you can ask questions too, because you have a podcast. So You
Straight
know
up.
how you know how this works.
No, I was gonna say no. It's extremely interesting because that's important, man. It's important. And there was one point that you made which I really resonate to, which is documentation of certain things, whether it's for yourself or for the public. For example, my journey right now in Ontario and stuff like that. Around the middle of it, I realized I'm something I had like kind of like a realization of like, yo, every problem or whatever it is, it just comes and then it goes and the world's ending. And then as soon as it leaves, you don't even remember it.
Yeah, it's
I'm like,
true.
what the heck is up with that, right? So
That's
I'm like,
true.
I need something to like show me to remember those moments, you know?
Mm.
And then so what I started doing is I started recording myself in
So
either happy moments, sad moments, scared moments, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, any high emotional state that I'm in,
yeah,
I document it just so I could remember and then refer back to it and show myself, yo, you've been through this or you've been through that or whatever it is, just so I don't kind of like go through emotions and just go through things and then it's done and then move on. See, I
yeah.
think that's extremely important. And then I said, Alhamdulillah, man, life is good, baby.
Life is great.
Life
Any
is
final
good,
words
man.
for the audience? Want to
Yeah,
hit
do
that hour
drugs.
mark? You know what?
Do
What did you just say?
That's anything, man.
Oh, I thought you said do drugs. I was like, what?
I did say that.
Oh, I was like, wait, what? You threw me
No,
off.
man. No, man. Yeah, I like to. What is it at right now? We're at like 59. I like to say shout out to Ibra for being amazing, man. Mashallah. Like, actually the whole reason why I told him I respect him a great deal, and even more as we got as we kind of like building our relationship more and more, is that my brother is extremely respects him and Sariba, and for that alone, the love and respect I have for you is extremely high, man. So Allah, shout out to you, one of the most consistent guys, goes for it, he tries to be as transparent as he can, doesn't stop, not really affected. I mean, I'm telling you, and that's a confidence thing. That's what I want everybody to see as well, too, right? When I'm doing, let me speak for myself. When I'm doing certain things, I'm shit scared. I'm scared, man. But it's like your fear just has to be a little less than your drive to get whatever you're trying to strive
That's
for
key.
done.
That's
Just
key.
a little bit, just like a little bit. Like Ibra, tell these guys how scared you are or how nervous you are when you're doing any of these stuff when you're putting yourself up there. Because I
Bro,
know your personality is not to just be like, you know what
it's
I mean?
scary, man. Even every
It's
before every
scary,
podcast,
man.
it's scary before every podcast because it's like I have
Yo,
all
fam.
notes. I have notes. I'm literally studying. I'm like this and that, but it's like you just never know. Like it's not like it's like one day like it just goes away. It's every single time. It's like because I want to make sure that like that the guest like we know the guest like we know the guest. So I'm like okay, in my head, I'm like, even after the podcast, I'll be like, oh, did I do a mistake or this and that? Like, I'm sure I'm gonna look at this. I'm gonna be like, I always look at my own flaws. You have to like, have to start, and you have to just do it in what you're doing. I'm sure even with
Just
what you're
a
doing,
little
that's
bit,
why you have
man.
hours, right? You have to get a certain amount of hours. It's not just because oh like we just need to see the number. No, because the more hours you put in, the more experience you're gonna get, the better you're gonna get in whatever you're doing. And that's why hours is so important, especially with what you're when your field. So
Mhm.
I think in terms of confidence, like that's just what it is. Like you just have to keep repeating what you're doing because
Facts. No, no, no. No, dude, you're absolutely right, man. And the point essentially, and it's some person may ask, like, okay, confidence. You're stressing about it, and then, Ibra, you're stressing about it. You're saying, okay, I just have to have a little more drive than fear. Which I'm telling you, man, like half the stuff I do or whoever does, walking into rooms where it's like high, because everybody's putting up a front. Everybody's putting up a front. The person who wins is who puts up a higher front, whether you believe it or not, whether it's fake or real. You just gotta what's that saying, man? It's like
fake it till you make it.
fake it till you make it. Play that game in your own head, where
Yeah,
it's
I
like
agree.
you tell yourself and you repeat the things in your head enough times where it's like you believe in yourself, you tell yourself, I'm that guy. I'm the shit. I could do that. I could do whatever. And no matter if even if you have one negative thought, you reassure that with 10 positive ones.
Yeah,
That that's the first step. I
yeah.
would say is like if you ask me like how did I'm not anything close to like achieving whatever I want to achieve in confidence or
Inshallah.
whatever. But what do you call it? Inshallah. But one step that I did learn from Tom Billy, which is an amazing
Oh yeah.
YouTube channel platform, amazing. It's called Impact Theory on YouTube. So kind of like got me started on this whole self development thing. But what do you call it? Essentially, what he says is like for confidence, building confidence, and all that kind of stuff is like be your number one fan, number one hater. That's the thing I say. And then he also says, what do you call it? If you get one negative thought, reassure it with like 10 positive ones. Just just drown that. You know what I mean? So I think that would be an amazing step one um, to go by to reaching your highest confidence that you're trying to achieve. You know, it's just one negative thought, 10 positive ones.
Yeah.
Bang that out with that. You know?
Love that. I love that. I honestly I appreciate you being you coming in because I know that time is like ti- time is valuable, like especially nowadays. I know that I know that you got a lot going on in your life too, so it's like just to be able to do like I appreciate it. Like I think I told you I was kind of shy to ask you to ask you. I don't know why I was shy, but sometimes I'm a little bit shy, especially when it comes to Richmond community. Like I get a little like a little shy to ask people if they want to like do anything.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I appreciate you coming on because honestly, like even listening to the podcast that you started, um, like that's I was like, yo, like this is like stuff that we need, and I'm looking forward to the next podcast that you have.
Mm.
But that's the honestly what we need, you know, more. It's more like it's more people that like I know their voices. Like I'm like
Mhm.
sure I can listen to someone from Detroit or something like that, but hearing like Adnan or like someone like that, like I'm like yo, like
Yeah.
I hear his voice. Like it's not like a new voice or it's not like someone that I see on a like on a screen. It's like someone that I've seen in person. Someone that like, you know, I can message and it's not like oh, I'm messaging, you know, whatever. It's like I can just like catch a vibe, right? So honestly, I appreciate you being a part of the podcast. Again, if you guys want to check out his stuff, like Purposeful Project, that's the one. Is it
Purposeful Project Pod
Pod?
on
Okay, on
Instagram.
IG. Um,
Yeah, on IG. Yeah.
and yeah, and then he also has his personal, Adnan Abadi, and then yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. If you guys like,
And
subscribe.
one more thing, man. One more thing. I'm expecting that paycheck, eh? I don't do things for free, baby. Yeah, I can't wait till you send that.
All
It's a
right,
6-figure paycheck.
six
I ain't
figure,
sitting here for free,
six
man.
six figures in what currency?
Hey,
I'll send you
man, we go.
Zimbabwe dollars.
Yo, we do Bitcoin.
I'll
Bitcoin's
send
popping.
Bitcoin. I mean, sure,
Bitcoin's
I'll
popping.
send you like a percentage of Bitcoin. I'll send you like point zero zero five percent of Bitcoin.
Oh,
Uh,
my bad to carry your intro, outro though.
no, you're good. You're good. You're good. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.
Like that, baby.